Hey everybody, it's Mark here at Garrett's Guitars in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I'm here to talk about my tinfoil hat. The thing that I believe that sounds kind of like a conspiracy theory. Now, I want to start, and wait, hear me out. I want to start by saying, I'll put this over here for now. I want to start by saying, I'm not, I believe things are as they seem. I am not into conspiracy theories. I don't think, the whole I'm not into magical thinking, tarot numbers, just things are kind of as they seem. But there is one thing that I believe that's going to sound a little like a conspiracy theory, and it has to do with the guitars in this room. So bear with me, and let me tell you about this. Somewhere in the after the stock market crash of the late 80s, in the United States, there has been a real, so the corporate raider kind of era was over, and banks and money people had to think, how are we going to get more money? And the idea was, there's so many people who have money in the bank and there's savings, and there's so much savings, and it's all being hoarded, because if you don't do anything with money, it just sits there. It just sits there. It kind of loses its value. We got to get this money into the economy. We got to get, and so the wheels started turning on how to empty out people's savings accounts and how to maximize financial markets and the exchange of money. Because when we talk about the economy, oftentimes it's measured by just how much money is being handed around. Are things being bought and sold? That's the economy. Not how much value is there stored, but how much economic activity is happening. So, and ever since then, that has been expanding. And that has to do with private equity, which is kind of why we're talking about this in the guitar world, because a lot of what we do, there's private equity's involvement in it. That being, private equity owns the manufacturers. Private equity owns the distributors. Private equity owns Reverb.com. Private equity owns, all the jam companies, if you're familiar with that, all the distributors, the secondary distributors we get things from, or smaller companies go through to get to stores. They own Guitar Center. They own a firm and that kind of, financing of instruments that people do. And so it just goes really deep. So here's the tinfoil hat part of this. You ever watch those videos on YouTube? They were popular, 20 years ago on YouTube or whatever. You might still see them. Just animal videos. Just animals just out there doing their animal things. Kind of like Honey Badger Don't Care. Or that's the clean version of that. But you ever see one of those videos of a bear and they knock down a beehive off a tree and they rip open the beehive and they get a big mouthful of honeycomb and all the bees sting the bear and fly away and the queen dies and the whole thing's over for the bees. They all end up dying because once you destroy that habitat, they don't really reconstruct. But the bear got a mouthful of honey, so everything's okay for the bear. Got stung a bit, but he's a tough guy. He's a bear. We humans have figured out a different way to get honey. We make, this little, we have beekeeping. We make this system where the bees make honey, and instead of destroying the hive when we want to take the honey, we just take some honey out. And the bees look around and go, oh, what's going on? We need more honey. We're running low on honey. Let's go. Let's keep going. And the bees just work like bees, making honey, and we get to take the honey out, and we get to eat the honey. And honey is delicious, especially to humans. So that's the analogy of the beekeeper. Except in this analogy, you are not the beekeeper. You are the bees. We are all the bees in someone else's beehive. And apiary, I believe. We are all providing honey, so just think of all the money you make and how you don't have most of that money. I take in $350,000 a year and I pay out $330,000 a year. It's not, all that money goes somewhere else. Where does it go? Well, in the olden days, me as an old man guitar retail, it went to other parts of your community. Like I was saying, the baker bought your guitar, you bought the baker's bread. There was an economy that was a local economy. Now, the economy, the beekeeper is the financial world, the private equity. And so they've decided to get into things that used to be small business. Picking up trash, running cafes, running guitar stores, selling, those kind of hardware stores and stuff like that. All the stuff that used to be the local, there used to be an apothecary, a pharmacy in every town. And now there isn't. Well, there is one, and it's called Walmart. So, that's the conspiracy. The fact that the money that you're making is not your own, and that we are in this, as I analyze, this retail world, that retail, buying and selling of stuff has been really cornered in the finance and private equity markets, and they're not necessarily doing a great job with it. Because to them, it's all about numbers. I was accused in my previous video because I was talking about selling your guitar. This person is a capitalist. They're just trying to, which is hilarious, first of all, because that's not, if I had to make a list of a dozen words to describe me, capitalist wouldn't necessarily be it. Yes, I buy and sell things. Yes, I live in a hybrid capitalist country. It's not really a totally capitalist country. However, my interest in money is just probably like yours. It's something I need to get stuff to live. It's not necessarily an obsession. So, sorry for that little sidetrack. But back to this. We're in this the private equity is getting into parts of business that they never got into before. And it's because that on paper, the numbers look good. For example, car washes. I have a friend who's a successful person in life, got a little extra money, decided to buy a car wash in Illinois. The funny thing is, he's never been to Illinois, and I doubt he even washes his car. It's not, it's not a passion. And he just got a proposition. He went around trying to buy a business. He wanted to buy a business as a revenue stream. And on paper, the car wash looks great because they're like, look at this. Here's all the numbers. We know how it works, and we'll give you an 8% return on your investment. You put this money in the bank, that's a little better than you might be, ETFs might be getting you 6% or whatever, 6 or 8, I don't know. And then interest, just leaving your money in the bank might get you 3 or 4% these days. Not a lot, but we'll give you, a return that looks good. You'll build equity in this property. You'll be able to sell this business down the road. It's a great business to own. And by the numbers, it all looks great. But the fact is, there's just way too many car washes around. They just opened another one in our small town. And the fact that it's not, you don't need an attendant. It used to be, this is great. You don't need employees. You just need one person to stop by once in a while and empty out the change machines and top off the soap. It's a dead-end street. And so back to the guitars. We have so much heart. We as guitar players and guitar sellers and everyone I run into this business, I'm looking forward to going to the NAMM show, the annual music industry convention, because everyone I meet there is my kind of people. The salespeople, the makers, the just everything in this music world. There's so much heart and so many good people. So we keep this retail infrastructure buoyant. Reverb.com is successful, I guess, and Guitar Center continues to exist somehow, despite debt, crippling debt, and other reasons it shouldn't be in business. Because of the people who put in the time and the effort every day because of their love of music. So we've been kind of like an outlier on this. We're not Payless Shoes. we're harder to put out of business. We don't love we love music more than money, so we'll stay in it for the love of it, which is what you're soaking in right now. This is for the love of it. So where's it all going? That's the conclusion part of this little editorial, and that is it's probably going to that place that that I fear that if there is when there is an economic downturn and all these money games tighten up, there's going to be a shakeup in this business. How will it affect the entire thing? It'll kind of be like when Radio Shack went out of business. Remember Radio Shack? Maybe some of you do. It's where you went for your electronic stuff. And they sold like capacitors and stuff, handy stuff that you just can't buy retail anymore. And it's just a bygone business. It was mismanaged, maybe you can blame it for whatever. But they were selling stuff that no one buys nowadays. Home stereos. They got into cell phones later on, but didn't quite work well for them. So, do I mean to be bleak? Well, it is tinfoil hat time, so there is a conspiracy going on here. People are here to take your money and make it theirs. I'm not saying don't buy guitars. I'm not saying don't go to a car wash. Just be aware of what's going on while it's going on. So that's my conspiracy theory for you. So, all my other videos here, of which there are hundreds here on YouTube, have nothing to do with wild conspiracy theories. So check those out. We have YouTube Live coming back, starting this week, I do believe. So it's just a 1 hour-ish sit down. This one's with me and Gary, where we just answer questions and talk about guitar. It's called Guitar Talk. So find that and we'll see you there. You can watch it live or you can watch it later on. It's fun both ways. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.